Warning that this post is definitely going to have a little swearing in it. And I say that before I've even recorded a single word of it. I just know.
Welcome to Ohioans Against Extremism podcast.
Oh my God, that was beautiful.
I've been training for that my whole life.
You know, every once in a while I've done sort of a narrative post. It usually is in a moment when people are feeling particularly uneasy about things. Sometimes people just need a pick-me-up, and it does feel like kind of one of those moments right now. And we think part of our role as an organization is to help people through moments like that. We plan for the worst. We talk about the worst. We spend a lot of time with the kind of worst topics related to politics you can think of. You know, the white supremacists, the authoritarian government. That's really the bulk of our job. So if we can keep our spirits up, I think you can too. So this post is going to be a little bit different. While I want to give you all the pep talk that you deserve, I also want to have a day where I, take care of my own life. And so you're really just going to get snippets throughout the day. You might see my conversation over B-roll of puppies and cat and plants. And we're on our 250th anniversary as a country. And what the fuck does that mean right now? One of the first things I think about when I'm thinking about the 250th anniversary is the week we've had. Supreme Court had several decisions come down. One of, I think, the biggest deals was the one about birthright citizenship. So here's the thing about birthright citizenship. That just basically means that if you were born here, you're an American citizen. Point blank, end of story. It's a relatively straightforward idea represented by super straightforward text in our actual fucking Constitution because they wanted no room for ambiguity. And that case was entirely about inserting ambiguity into somewhere where there isn't any. The first sentence of the 14th Amendment reads, "All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside." That's it. That's it. Were you born or naturalized here? Born here. Pretty straightforward. The amendment says what it says, but this case was about inserting ambiguity into that question and trying to argue, but like maybe in some circumstances, people who are born here shouldn't be citizens. And the answer is no. The 14th Amendment was adopted to clarify that anyone born here in any circumstance is a citizen, point blank, end of story. It was adopted with that premise. It was adopted in the 1800s. So the reality is that even at the time, this is what they meant. The right to bear arms might have been talking about muskets, not machine guns, but people born here, no matter their circumstance, that was the same. Even while all the guardrails seem to be evaporating before our eyes, they still lost that case. Trump still lost that case. And the reason they lost that case is because the text itself is so clear. And you have to admire the drafters of the Constitution and the drafters of the 14th Amendment for being so straightforward that it was impossible to disagree with. Specifically on the 4th of July, I think about what the holiday is actually supposed to celebrate, right? Like, let's start there. It was the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And, that was when 13 colonies came together and said, hey, King, you literally don't have any authority over us. We've all agreed to work it out amongst ourselves. Thanks, see you later. I don't think people are really appreciating how revolutionary, pun intended, that act was. It was radical. It was radical to tell your current governing body, you do not represent me because you have abused the privileges of being our government. And then I think about the moment we're in and how ironic it is that, you have the empty 250-year fair on the White House lawn and the juxtaposition between the ideas actually being put forward on July 4th, 1776 and what it has been bastardized into. But then I also think about the life cycle of America. Every time there's been a major social movement, Reconstruction, civil rights. The Declaration of Independence is always one of the reference documents because it was a declaration of values. And these were moments in American history where the situation was so untenable. The reality on the ground was so at odds with the direct words of that document, of our founding, that we had an obligation to our country to rethink how we're doing things. That was a document that they turned to for support in their argument. All of those moments in time was a leader or a group of leaders saying, enough is enough. We have strayed too far. We cannot pretend that what we see and hear and experience is at all consistent with the things that we say we value. So honestly, thinking about things that way, I know it can feel like America's never been more divided, but that's just not true. We have been through a war with ourselves. We've also gotten through those conflicts and ultimately figured out how to make those tragedies into a system that's a little fairer. I think right now we are in a moment where there's people in power that want us to lose faith in institutions. But to be honest, it's the institutions keeping my hope alive. There are many, 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 many more people out there who just kind of want to live a decent life and be good to the people in it and try to help people when they can. America is just Americans. We are what makes this country great. No shitty government can take that away from us, truly. Part of the reason as an organization we've been so focused on voting rights lately is because I think that's our way of getting back to basics. At a minimum, we can make sure that the person who gets the most votes wins an election. We can make sure that rich guys can't actually corrupt the process by which we pick our leaders. And then I can only hope that we start picking better leaders. But honestly, right now, this is really a moment where I want to protect our institutions. We have no choice but to trust that the voters will see through this cloud of bullshit. I will also say, though, that is going to be a whole lot easier if we actually get the fuck off our phones. I've said it before a million times. I'm probably going to say it a million more times. We have to stop living on our phone. I say this as I've spent the whole fucking day talking into my phone. But it's not a healthy way to exist, you guys. It's just not. As we get more money in politics, as we start to enter peak campaign season, the airwaves are going to be full of just bullshit. There's going to be AI content. There's going to be targeted ads that are meant to cling to your insecurities and play off your fears. Trust me, I've seen a tiny sliver of what micro-targeting ad buys have to offer, and it's horrifying. You would be horrified. This fucking device knows you better than you know yourself, and just the sooner you accept that, I think the sooner that you will join me on the Luddite side of the world. The reason that I love interacting with plants and animals so much is because there's nothing artificial about them. I have never thought, is my dog a bot? Or if I'm pissed off because an algorithm learned that my weak spot was this type of issue. Billionaires can surveil us. Corporations can force us to pay fees. Institutions have ways of making our lives so fucking hard. But you don't have to consent to being on the receiving end of this bullshit. You can actually leave your phone at home. People did it for many, many centuries. It will be fucking fine. You can not go on social media today. Probably not going to affect your life. I think we all need to be starting to set boundaries for ourselves, because it's only going to be harder. It's only also going to get more fucking annoying. These ads are going to be so obnoxious. They're going to try to be getting you angry because they're trying to motivate you. And anger is a really cheap way to motivate someone. But there's a lot to be pissed off about. That's going to get worse. It's going to get worse before it gets better. But I think if we can get through other trying periods of American history, I think we have to learn from that. Whether or not our democracy survives this current stress test is really going to come down to a million tiny decisions of millions of people. Authoritarianism can only be upheld if we uphold it. And one more thing, Don't let anyone ever tell you that having joy in the midst of this horrible dark period is anything but revolutionary itself. It is a way of taking control back over your life. They might be able to take your money, your privacy, things that really matter to you, but they cannot rob you of all your joy. That is up to you. If you can find a way to appreciate what you have, to appreciate the idea of America, what it's supposed to be, even if it isn't living up to that promise right now, that's worth celebrating. The American promise is still very much worth celebrating. It's just also one we need to uphold a little bit better than we currently are. And I have faith that we can do that even on really hard days. I really do have faith that we can do that. We can come back from this. And hell, if Frederick Douglass can find hope in the 1800s, I think that we all could find a little hope today. Don't give up. I'm not. You shouldn't. Life will keep going regardless of what happens to our democracy. But fuck, I hope we keep our democracy. I am not ready to give up on it. I just hope you're not either. And now I will let the words of the wise Frederick Douglass close us out. Frederick Douglass gave the speech, "What to a Slave is the 4th of July," 2 years after the passage of the Fugitive Slave Act. So the speech you're about to hear was given before the Civil War even happened. Think about what Frederick Douglass has been tasked with doing. He himself, a former slave, is charged with defending the day that doesn't apply to him. This is just excerpts from the speech. It's like an hour long, so I'm just kind of picking my favorite passages, but I think what you'll find is that a lot of it resonates even today. This, for the purposes of this celebration, is the 4th of July. It is the birthday of your national independence and of your political freedom. This, to you, is what the Passover was to the emancipated people of God. This celebration also marks the beginning of another year of your national life and reminds you that the Republic of America is now 76 years old. I am glad, fellow citizens, that your nation is so young. 76 years, though a good old age for a man, is but a mere speck in the life of a nation. Nations number their years by thousands. According to this fact, you are even now only in the beginning of your national career, still lingering in the period of childhood. I am glad this is so. There is hope in that thought, and hope is much needed, that America is young, and that she is still in the impressionable stage of her existence. 76 years ago, the people of this country were British subjects. The style and title of your, quote, sovereign people, in which you now glory, was not then born. You were under the British crown. To say now that America was right and England was wrong is exceedingly easy. Everybody can say it. It is fashionable to do so, but there was a time when to pronounce against England and in favor of the cause of the colonies tried men's souls. They who did so were accounted in their day plotters of mischief, agitators and rebels, dangerous men. To side with the right against the wrong, with the weak against the strong, and with the oppressed against the oppressor. Oppression makes a wise man mad. Your fathers were wise men. They felt themselves the victims of grievous wrongs, wholly incurable in their colonial capacity. With brave men, there has always a remedy for oppression. Just here, the idea of a total separation of the colonies from the crown was born. It was a startling idea, much more so than we, at this distance of time, regard it. The timid and the prudent of that day were, of course, shocked and alarmed by it. Such people lived then, had lived before, and will probably ever have a place on this planet. And their course in respect to any great change, no matter how great the good be attained or the wrong to be redressed by it. They hate all changes, but silver, gold, and copper, of this sort of change, they are always strongly in favor. Their opposition to the then dangerous thought was earnest and powerful, but Amid all their terror and affright vociferations against it, the alarming and revolutionary idea moved on, and the country with it. And today you reap the fruits of their success. The freedom gained is yours, and you, therefore, may properly celebrate this anniversary. The 4th of July is the first great fact in your nation's history. Fellow citizens, I am not wanting in respect for the fathers of this republic. The signers of the Declaration of Independence were brave men. They were great men too. It does not often happen to a nation to raise at one time such a number of truly great men. They were statesmen, patriots, and heroes, and for the good they did and the principles they contended for, I will unite with you to honor their memory. They loved their country better than their own private interests, and though this is not the highest form of human excellence, all will concede that it is a rare virtue, and that when it is exhibited, it ought to command respect. He who will, intelligently, lay down his life for his country is a man whom it is not in human nature to despise. Your fathers staked their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor on the cause of this country. In their admiration of liberty, they lost sight of all other interests. They were peacemen, but they preferred revolution to peaceful submission to bondage. They were quiet men, but they did not shrink from agitating against oppression. They believed in order, but not in the order of tyranny. With them, nothing was settled that was not right. They seized upon eternal principles and set a glorious example in their defense. Fellow citizens, pardon me and allow me to ask, why am I called upon to speak here today? What have I or those I represent to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom, of natural justice, embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? And am I, therefore, called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits and express devout gratitude for the blessings resulting from your independence to us? Such is not the state of the case. I say it with a sad sense of disparity between us. I am not included within the pale of this glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me. The sunlight that brought life and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice. I must mourn. Do you mean, citizens, to mock me by asking me to speak today? Fellow citizens, above your national tumultuous joy, I hear the mournful wail of millions whose chains, heavy and grievous yesterday, are today rendered more intolerable by the jubilant shouts that reach them. To forget them, to pass lightly over their wrongs, and to chime in with the popular theme would be treason, most scandalous and shocking. Whether we turn to the declarations of the past or to the professions of the present, the conduct of this nation seems equally hideous and revolting. Where all is plain, there is nothing to be argued. What point in the anti-slavery creed would you have me argue? On which branch of the subject do the people of this country need light? Must I undertake to prove that the slave is a man? The point is conceded already, no one doubts it. The slaveholders themselves acknowledge it in the enactment of laws for their government. They acknowledge it when they punish disobedience on the part of the slave. There are 72 crimes in the state of Virginia which, if committed by a black man, no matter how ignorant he be, subject him to punishment of death. We are called upon to prove that we are men? Would you have me argue that that man is entitled to liberty? That he is the rightful owner of his own body? You've already declared it. Must I argue the wrongfulness of slavery? There is not a man beneath the canopy of heaven who does not know that slavery is wrong for him. At a time like this, scorching irony, not convincing argument, is needed. Oh, had I the ability and could I reach the nation's ear, I would today pour out a fiery stream of biting ridicule, blasting reproach, withering sarcasm, and stern rebuke. For it is not light that is needed, but fire. It is not the gentle shower, but thunder. We need the storm, the whirlwind, and the earthquake. The feeling of the nation must be quickened. The conscience of the nation must be aroused. The propriety of the nation must be startled. The hypocrisy of the nation must be exposed. What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than any other day of the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. By an act of the American Congress not yet 2 years old, slavery has been nationalized in its most horrendous and revolting form. By that act, Mason and Dixon's line has been obliterated. New York has become as Virginia, and the power to hold, hunt, and sell men, women, and children as slaves remains no longer a mere state institution, but is now an institution of the whole United States. Your lawmakers have commanded all good citizens to engage in this hellish sport. Not fewer than 40 Americans have, within the past 2 years, been hunted down and without merit or warning hurried away in chains and consigned to slavery and excruciating torture. Some of these have had wives and children dependent on them for bread, but of this no account was made. The right of the hunter to his prey stands superior to the right of marriage and to all rights in this republic, the rights of God included. For Black men, there are neither law, justice, humanity, nor religion. The fugitive slave law makes mercy to them a crime and bribes the judges who tries them. An American judge gets $10 for every victim he consigns to slavery, and 5 when he fails to do so. Let this damning fact be perpetually told, that in tyrant-killing, king-hating, people-loving, democratic Christian America, the seats of justices are filled with judges who hold their offices under open and palpable bribe. Americans, your Republican politics, not less than your Republican religion, are flagrantly inconsistent. You boast of your love of liberty, your superior civilization, and your pure Christianity, while the whole political power of the nation, as embodied in the 2 great political parties, is solemnly pledged to support and perpetuate the enslavement of 3 million of your countrymen. You pride yourself on your democratic institutions, while you yourselves consent to be the mere tools and bodyguards of the tyrants of Virginia and Carolina. Fellow citizens, there is no matter in respect to which the people of the North have allowed themselves to be so ruinously opposed upon as that of the pro-slavery character of the Constitution. In that instrument, I hold there is neither warrant, license, nor sanction of the hateful thing, but interpreted as it ought to be interpreted. The Constitution is a glorious liberty document. Read its preamble. Consider its purpose. Now, there are certain rules of interpretation for the proper understanding of all legal instruments. These rules are well established. They are plain, common sense rules, such as you and I and all of us can understand and apply without having passed years in the study of law. I hold that every American citizen has a right to form an opinion of the Constitution and to propagate that opinion, and to use all honorable means to make his opinion the prevailing one. The Constitution is the fundamental law, that which controls all others, the charter of our liberties, which every citizen has a personal interest in understanding thoroughly. Now take the Constitution according to its plain reading, and I defy the presentation of a single pro-slavery clause in it. On the other hand, it will be found to contain principles and purposes entirely hostile to the existence of slavery. Allow me to say, in conclusion, notwithstanding the dark picture I have this day presented of the state of the nation, I do not despair of this country. There are forces in operation which must inevitably work the downfall of slavery. The arm of the Lord is not shortened, and the doom of slavery is certain. I therefore leave off where I began, with hope. While drawing encouragement from the Declaration of Independence, the great principles it contains, and the genius of American institutions, my spirit is also cheered by the obvious tendencies of the age. Nations do not now stand in the same relation to each other that they did ages ago. No nation can now shut itself up from the surrounding world and trot round in the same old paths of its fathers without interference. Long-established customs of hurtful character could formerly fence themselves in and do their evil work with social impunity. Knowledge was then confined and enjoyed by the privileged few, and the multitude walked on in a mental darkness. But a change has now come over the affairs of mankind. Walled cities and empires have become unfashionable. The arm of commerce has borne away the gates of the strong city. Intelligence is penetrating the darkest corners of the globe. Oceans no longer divide, but link nations together. From Boston to London is now a holiday excursion. Space is comparatively annihilated. Thoughts expressed on one side of the Atlantic are distinctly heard on the other.